wrong. It's not that he needs more RAM. He needs a new computer.
I need a whole new computer. Like my screen is only hanging on by one hinge.
I mean, heck, I had updated it with a new SSD even. But it's got enough RAM. It's just an old CPU.
We'll let you strip this before I get rid of it.
Also, like if you look at a laptop, like here as it opens up, the hinge is like this on one side too. As well. So it's Van's best friend is duct tape and all the things that he probably uses it on.
So we have pushed it past that.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. I've missed seeing your I would say your faces, but your names. I don't see when we do our show. But thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it. Last week we had an awesome week. We had a Saber giveaway because we reached 1,700 subs. And just to remind you all watching, every 100 subs we give away a free Saber. And so make sure to share, tell people about the channel, and they can also sub and get a chance. All you have to do is to enter is show up and chat something, and it automatically enters you in. If you have multiple accounts, you can actually do it that way. There's only a few stipulations, like you have to pay for shipping if you can't come in to get it from the store, and you can't have one in the last 6 months. Those like the main stipulations. You can't work for KC or KCP, which there's only 2 people at the that
one's pretty easy.
That category. So anyway, how are you this week?
I am good. I was just in Sacramento at Toy Fusion today, so I got to meet a bunch of cool people. I want to apologize because I am on a tablet right now. That's why it's all blasted white behind me. Hopefully, I will get this computer issue resolved sooner than later. But so I'm not able to see the comments unless you put them up on screen, Mez. So just remember, if anybody asks questions, to star that because I won't be able to see it.
Yes, sir.
And put it up.
I will. I've already had that in my mind. That's why I showed them all in the opening. All right. Yeah, my week was a week of pain, unfortunately. So back last night, which I let Van know about. I also 12 days ago. I know it sounds weird, but I know the exact date it happened because it happened right after I had Bible study. My husband and I were driving home with our youngest, and I saw someone had broken their car down in the intersection. And she was very stressed out, and I decided to push her car by myself.
What?
And I hurt something. I finally saw the doctor a week later, and I got like some tiny tears in my Achilles and the peroneal tendon next to it. So I have to wear a boot.
Like you of all people should know.
I know. Well, my husband was driving, and it was kind of like the adrenaline kicked in, and you think you're good, and then you're not good, and then it's like, this is not good.
Did your husband help push?
No, he was in the car driving. He was with our youngest. I was in the passenger seat, and it was like she was like right at the intersection. So she was stressed out. People were honking. Nobody was stopping to help. So I was like, screw this. I'm going to get out and help. And so then I like injured myself in the run.
Oh my gosh. Well,
thank you, Night Vision. That's very kind of you to say, Wonder Woman. Actually, this is the second time this week after that. Which is just, I don't know why that makes me giggle. But moving on, guys.
I want to say it's good to see Night Vision back. I think Night Vision's first show was last week.
Yes. Yay. Good to see you.
We try to keep track of all of our friends here.
All right.
Nerdy
news. Who's ready for the nerdy news? Everybody? Everybody's ready? All right.
I'm ready for the nerdy news. What you got?
High Republic, if you guys don't know, is a comic book series with Star Wars, different stories of different characters. If you're interested in it, there's actually a link in the description, and I will post it in the chat in just a second. That is the chronological reader's guide. For those who want to, like, they have one for Marvel for all the movies. If you want to see it in chronological order, you can do that.
Wow.
There's a guide out there that helps you do that, and this guide is similar, the same kind of thing, but it's for the Star Wars High Republic because they weren't printed just like the movies. They didn't come out in chronological order. So if you'd like to see them in chronological order, you can just pull up that article, and it will tell you all the information about it. Next, Marvel Animation's X-Men 97 releases a new age featurette. So have you heard about the new Marvel series, Van?
Oh, I mean, everybody's, different people have different opinions, but yeah, like a lot of people, it's going to be a big event either way. They are continuing the series that they had back in 97.
Yeah,
which is
and
exciting.
Yeah, my husband watched almost the entire series. So like I can't remember, I think it was like 5 or 6 seasons. But it was such a popularity that when they had originally planned to finish off the series in the 90s, they actually brought it back for a season, but because it wasn't originally planned, all the original like voice actors and writers and stuff had left to other jobs and they had other people to
Right.
and apparently it wasn't as good as the previous seasons because of said jobs being taken already. This
Right.
is not a reboot for those who are wondering. This is from the article. It says next day continuation. And if you want to see the featurette, I'm linking it in the description below. If you would like, I never watched it right in the 90s. Superheroes weren't like huge for me in the 90s, and I never seen it. So if you want a boot camp kind of course on it, New Rockstars just released a video where Eric Voss kind of goes through the basics of every episode. It's like an hour-long video.
Wow.
So that kind of was that's what I watched to kind of get a boot camp thing of what happened in the series. And all of the, like when you rewatch it now too, all of the little cameos that popped in here and there are like random recurring characters of random mutants in the background are also there that he points out. So I thought that was really cool, but I know a lot of people are very excited for it. So feel free to check that out.
This was kind of a golden age for cartoons where they weren't like the superhero cartoons weren't for like little kidsy, kind of like Teen Titan Go is now. Teen Titan is another example of one that was a more serious look, and people really loved that because people didn't think you could pull that off. But this is a beloved classic for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And in the New Rockstars video that we watched, my husband and I watched to kind of give me a crash course in the series, they do explain about one X-Men that was brought on just to be like, kind of killed off early to show the stakes that are supposed to be in the show.
Right.
So I thought that was a really cool little tidbit. So if you want to find out more info on that, go to the New Rockstars. It's one of their most recent videos. They're a YouTube channel that do a lot of like the Marvel breakdowns. And we've had Tommy, who used to be on New Rockstars, on the show before, and Eric and Tommy both came to KyberCon 3 last year. So
yes, they were so much fun.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. Again, one of my favorite memories from last year, especially too. That was really cool. That is your nerdy news for today. If you like, you can check the chat, has those links. But if you're watching the upload, I put the links in the description below, and you can check that out for yourself.
Excellent. And I want to remind everybody, if this is your first time here, please hit the like and subscribe button. You can even hit the little bell to get notifications. We put out plenty of news shows, and we have new shows on daily. It's not 7 days a week now, but we're that's because we're doing stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah, we're kind of having a transitional thing where there's some stuff that's behind the scenes at the moment because they're going to be like better produced shows.
Yes.
AA Ron, formerly known as Force, is doing professional voiceover work, which is very exciting. So he has departed to go do those projects.
Yes.
New shows. We have a new role-playing game coming up. That's a show that we've made a series. We have 6 episodes recorded at this point. And it's a bit more production-wise, so it's taking longer to get off the ground than like a lot of other shows.
Stuff behind the scenes.
Yes, and then some of the stuff needed a break. Like Hearts of Kyber took a break. Gaming is taking a break. I can't stream during the day, weekdays at all anymore, which is a bit of a bummer, but it is what it is. If you want to see more of just me, I do have my own YouTube channel called MezzoJD. I'm doing Minecraft and Sherlock Holmes at the moment. So you can just go look at those if you'd like to.
And there's tons of stuff in our library as well.
Yeah, we have a bunch of stuff. So if you want to just go see some old playthroughs or go watch one of our old shows, all those stuff is still really cool to see.
That's right.
So moving on, James Kaiser is our producer for Flow, the show. And I know he originally wanted to do something special for St. Patty's Day, but didn't get to us until last minute. So go ahead and look for that on our Facebook page. I'm going to post it later to our Facebook page so that he'll still have that on.
Nice.
This week, please enjoy our Flow Obsidian Dandy. That was
Woo.
quick and sweet, a nice little touch of what Obsidian Dandy has to offer.
And that was different too.
Facebook. Yeah,
We haven't seen squares.
It reminded me of magician sleight of hand type of work. It's like very illusion how it looks and everything.
Yes.
Thank you very much, James Kaiser. You can check out Obsidian Dandy on Facebook under Obsidian Dandy. I keep wanting to say Obsidian Daddy because it's just I don't know why. I don't want to touch his head though, like he's got all the spikes all over his face.
Right.
If you guys would like, you can also see what Van's got there. That is a really nice, sweet Kyber Cave Productions water bottle that has the KC logo on the other side.
It's got both. That's what I love on this one.
Yeah, you can grab one of those at our merch shop, kcpmerch.com. Check that out. And
that's right.
Us on the channel. Never seen that before. Very cool. Well, Night Vision. Look, you can go look at our past episodes, and you can see so many different types of flows. It's really
all kinds of flows.
Yeah, so many different flows. All right,
including one that you wouldn't expect. I think the one that caught me off guard the most was Mary Gibbons, who does the voice of Boo from Monsters Inc.
Mary Gibbs.
Mary Gibbs. She does Fire Dart Flow, which was absolutely mind-blowing. Hey, I also want to remind people, make sure to check out kybercave.com. We are coming up on Star Wars Christmas coming up here May 4th. And so make sure that you head over to the website. We have exceptional deals on sabers. We actually had a big price drop on several of our sabers. So head over to the website. You're going to find better deals than a lot of places. We also offer a 1-year warranty on everything. So if anything happens to it, we take care of it for you. So check out kybercave.com. It helps support this show.
Before we introduce our host, a quick hello to Kevin Hogan, who was our producer for Kevin Comic-Con Adventures, who is taking a definite hiatus. He can come back, he cannot, whatever he wants to do.
We miss you, Kevin.
We do miss you, but we let our channel, our crew, and our people take breaks when they want to and pursue other things if they want to, whatever they want to do. All right, go ahead and introduce our guest, sir.
All right. Our guest tonight, I actually got through a man named Andrew. If you are a resident of the Sacramento area, you may know the very cool toy store, Toy Fusion. They buy old stuff and they sell new stuff. They have all kinds of, if you're a fan of toys, that is the place to be. So he let us know about this incredible, he's a member of a team, and we'll find out more about it here. But they have a brand new toy line that's coming out. I was told by Andrew to remind our guest tonight that they have a show in Sacramento coming up. So make sure to promote that. He has done artwork for He-Man. If you saw He-Man on Netflix, he did, I believe, some of the poster artwork for that. And so we're going to find out more about him. So please give it up for, man, I'm going to destroy the last name. Please give it up for Mr. Nate Baertsch. Woo!
Is
it Baertsch?
He can say who's wrong or right. I think it's Baertsch, but I don't know.
Baertsch, you're probably close.
Baertsch is my guess.
You're probably right.
Here we go. Enjoy.
Woohoo! Hello. How you doing, Nate?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Thanks for.
Oh man, your artwork is absolutely mind blowing.
Thank you. That's just a small glimpse what you got there at the beginning. The Netflix, it's the big loud stuff that I can point to and say I did Netflix stuff. I did
right.
That's big stuff.
Exactly.
In my heart of hearts, just as big as the work that I do with the company that I work for, which is For Horseman Studio.
Well, that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. I was very privileged, and I didn't know if we'd have time to get I didn't take any photos today, but I got to see a booth. And I don't know if it's work that you've worked on or other stuff that was done by the studio, but these toys were just, oh my God, dude. For a toy lover, it was absolutely a dream come true. It was amazing.
Awesome. Was it Mythic Legions or was it Cosmic Legions or was it?
I believe it was Mythic Legions, I believe is what it was.
Very, very cool. Yeah, we'll talk a lot about all of that tonight, I'm sure.
So what in the process? So okay, so our audience obviously knows, and don't forget, people in the audience, if you have any specific questions for Nate or things about the toy industry in general or for Horsemen, you can type it on in there. Don't forget, Mets, I don't have any controls, so pop it up on the screen, and I'll make sure to ask.
I know. Oh gosh, I'm huge. Sorry. Gosh, I'm just.
So yeah, but feel free to interact and ask Nate anything that you want. Well, so you are part of this group. Is it 4 people? Is that part of the name?
It began as 4 people. It began as 4. Yeah, it was 4 horsemen. They started back in 98, 99. They all worked at McFarlane Studios, and then they all kind of broke away from McFarlane Studios. And
wow.
If I remember correctly, they were already reaching out to different toy companies, and they had reached out to Mattel, and Mattel had said, you know what, serendipitously, we're looking for outside studios to kind of sculpt for us.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And so I think Mattel asked them, what's the name of your company? And I think it was Jim Preziosi, one of my bosses. He was like, why don't we go with 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse or something like that, kind of a thing. And that just stuck.
Right.
Because it was 4 of them. It was it was Cornboy, Eric Mays, Eric Treadaway, Jim Preziosi, and at the time it was Chris Dahlberg. They were the original. Wow.
It's so funny that you bring that up, especially the time period, because literally I was at the toy show earlier today, and one of the things we were talking about was the history of the toy industry, and we were talking about how around 97, 98 was a very unique time in that I remember I used to read Toy Fair magazine, and there was like a big revolt from a lot of the artists. They like Digger Mesh, I remember being one of the big proponents, but they were trying to get the names of the artists onto the packaging, but like a lot of the big companies are saying like, oh, we don't have room for that. There's not, it'll mess up the flow or whatever. But I remember Digger's argument was that he thought that the artists should be more recognized for the work that they do on the action figures. So it sounds like your company is kind of like a child of that whole movement.
Very much so. The Horsemen in general have always any of their own property things or our own property things. I work with them now, so I'm one of them now. So yeah, but
right, you're a Horseman.
We wanted to always, and they've always had that philosophy of just giving credit where credit is due, essentially. And it's always
right.
Say these are the artists behind it, and you'll see other companies do it, like NECA. We're very good friends with NECA as well as companies go, and you'll see they do it as well. They're very much part of that same movement.
Right. Now, you are more of an independent company, correct? Like you don't have like billion-dollar backers and huge production lines in China making these figures for you. Not yet.
We do have factories in China, yes, that do produce our stuff. So I mean,
nice.
We're big enough for sure that it's commanding that we by necessity we can't have our factories working on other things. We kind of need them to focus on our stuff. So and a lot of that is handled by Chris Garrich. He's our production manager there, our production manager, and he's the one that has really, man, we wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for Chris. In terms of, he very much is hands-on, understands how factories work and that kind of a thing. So he interfaces with them directly, and it's a major blessing for all of us.
Right. Now, of course, I'm a kid. I was born, I'm a child of the toys of the 80s, which to me will always be the classic best era of, they're still making productions of toys that came out in that era. And of course, as a young child, you always think, if I had my own toy company, I would make this and I would make that. How does it work in the realm? Because there's companies, obviously, we've all heard of Hasbro. We've all heard of some of the bigger name companies, Mattel. But as a company that's, not as recognized, is it a challenge for you to come up with ideas and to get people to kind of buy into your mythos, or do they prefer something, when they've already seen the cartoon on TV? Or
that's definitely, that should be a future interview with Eric Treadaway, who is kind of the brainchild. He's the one that really creates the worlds that we're producing right now with Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions. I mean, it's all coming out of his head. But to kind of answer your question, we all at the studio, we all grew up in that same era of the 80s, where it was like Masters of the Universe is a great example of that was a toy first. Like I don't know if a lot of people recognize that or realize that, but that was absolutely a toy first. And the toy sales were such that Mattel was like, well, we got to do more with this. And then legislation lifted on some rules about figures and selling toys with cartoons and that kind of a thing. And so thanks to that, all of a sudden there's a He-Man cartoon being produced, and that's really what got out in front of everybody's faces. But I would also argue that that only happened because the toys came first. I think everybody kind of recognizes that was a weird thing. Like that wasn't. Now, in the 80s, it was a little more common just because in the 80s, and I think why we look back on it so fondly is that it was a time where if someone had a good idea and could get it in front of the right people, it got out there and we just ate it up. And if it was a good idea, it wasn't like they were crappy ideas or anything like that. It was good stuff, and we ate it up. So yeah, it was. So in terms of like Four Horsemen Studios as a company, I mean, don't get me wrong or us wrong. We would love to have media attached to a lot of the properties that we produce, but at the same time, we know who we are. We're toy people. We love making action figures, and so and I would submit we're world builders in a sense. Eric Treadaway is 100% a world builder with what he does, both with Mythic Legions and with Cosmic Legions. It's just mind-blowing, and it's humbling, and it's awesome. Like to think he's one of my best friends and he's my boss too, and we work together. Like, we're just a bunch of grown-up kids playing in the sandbox together.
There's a question. I'm not sure how serious this is, so take it for what it is. But it says, so which of your toys is most dangerous? Which one is most likely to shoot my eye out with? Do you now? Who are you guys? You envision? You do the artwork for the characters, correct?
I do. Yeah, so Four Horsemen Studios. They're a 3D like action figure sculpture shop. That's where we originated. I've been working with them officially for just a little over a year, like on the payroll as a Horseman, that kind of a thing. Whereas before that, I was working with them for 16, 17 years prior to that. Just anytime they had a 2D or an illustrative need, they would often come to me. Nice. So I've been working with them in that capacity. And that's really kind of been my role so I handle like all of the artwork on the packaging. That's all been me. It's been me the whole time. What
about you? And forgive me if I get the name wrong. Did you say it was Eric was the one that was conceptualizing? Would he tell you about, say, a character that he has in mind, and you would draw that out? And I envision bigger horns, or I envision different chest plates, or what have you.
Sometimes with Mythic and Cosmic, with our own properties, he's as good an artist on his own. Like he does just fine doodling and drawing and designing on his own. Like largely the designs are his. Every once in a while, if he doesn't have time for something, or he just would like to see my take on something, he will ask me to draw up some designs. And so part of my title is a little bit toy designer also, in the sense that I'll come up with weapons for a character, or I'll come up with different heads, or I'll come, that kind of a thing. It all just kind of depends. But I would say the design aesthetic for like 98% of what you see in Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions, that's all Eric Treadaway.
Right.
Awesome. He creates a world that is just so fun to play in.
Now, it seems to me, with with the competition being what it is, and trying to get a name out in the market, and you're competing against maybe better, well-known properties and things like that. It seems to me that you've really got to get people to buy into that world building that you're doing. That, like, you can't just come out with one character and say, okay, this is what I have. You have to have several characters, and there's got to be a bigger story, even if there isn't like a comic book or a movie attached to it or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but at the same time, there's kind of a philosophy that I think we all have in the company, and just, I would say, even in the industry as a whole. I've heard other people in other companies, but in the same toy industry, we just want to make what we like and what we love. And even from an artistic philosophy myself, I've often said, if you're not loving what you're doing, it's going to show in the artwork. Whatever
Right.
whether it's the action figure making or the packaging art that you're doing, or the story that you're telling in a comic book or whatever it is, if you're not loving it, it's going to show. If you are loving it, it's going to show. So,
Right.
and I think that's what people respond to. They, like, a lot of times, us as artists, we're doing what we love, and we're going to put everything we can into it because we care about it. And I think that really,
Right.
and I do genuinely feel like everybody else kind of responds to that. Like, they can tell, you can feel it when you look at something. It's like, yeah, that was a phoned in whatever, versus, wow, these people are really passionate about what they do.
Right.
People like to support people that are passionate, which is kind of awesome.
Right. So when he and you as a team are creating these lines, is there like market research that's being done that says, the boys, they really want fantasy toys? Or is it more like, man, I had this dream and, it was so vivid and I want to see what it looks like, in my hand? Is it more of what's inside you, or kind of market driven?
I think we're very lucky as a company in that I feel like we get to kind of do what we think is cool. And thankfully it resonates with people. However, you also have to recognize that all of us are artists that have been doing this for a variety of companies. It hasn't been just our own stuff. It's been
Right.
it's been for NECA, it's been for Hasbro, it's been, we all work on various things, and we see, and we all know, just being in the industry, what is popular, what takes and what doesn't take.
Right.
I remember having conversations with Eric around the time that we were launching the second Kickstarter for Mythic Legions, and I remember how nervous Eric was about it, because it was so the first Kickstarter dealt with a lot of our action figures that are just the barbarian, orc, or knight kind of characters. They're very, I would say, testosterone driven, right? They're just very, they have for lack of a better word, they have just a badass quality about them, kind of a thing.
Right.
People are going to respond to it, and it's very male driven.
They're characters that are recognizable, and they have an appeal already built into them, separate from what you guys have brought already.
Exactly.
You don't have to recognize a particular orc to know that that's a scary monster.
Exactly. Or even the dwarves and the knights. It's like we recognized at the time that there just wasn't a fantasy toy line out there that had just a straight up classic looking knight in shining armor kind of a thing that was a very playable action figure. So I mean,
right.
there was definitely a hole to fill in the action figure industry at the time when Mythic hit. And then when the second Kickstarter hit, we were adjusting the overall buck or design of the figure to what we call our 2.0, which is it's the smaller stuff. It's the thinner discs. It's the thinner arm pieces or thinner legs, and that, which led to more female characters, more goblin type characters, or like tall elven type characters. And that's what I was talking about with Eric, where I remember him being very nervous about that and worried that it wasn't going to take, just because there wasn't a lot of that raw kind of, that heavy stuff that does tend to sell well. I mean,
right.
Whatever your belief system is, whatever your politics system is, at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie as far as what gets bought. And it's
right.
When you realize that your demographic is a bunch of, I mean, it's not that way anymore, thankfully, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of dudes that collect action figures that grew up in the 80s like us,
Right.
And we're just like, we just want awesome monsters and things to play with. And it's like, but what Mythic Legions has proven, and I feel that has been very successful, and we're even seeing more of the opposite today with a lot of the toy lines and the waves that we're releasing, is that the female characters are just as popular, if not more popular, than the other stuff. So it's like,
Right.
there's definitely a broadening and an expanding of what people are interested in. But in terms of like, kind of going back to what you had asked before about like market research and that kind of thing, I don't know that anyone in our company, and I could be wrong about this, but it doesn't feel like anyone is sitting down and like comparing notes across various toy lines and that kind of a thing. And like, look, we want to do this. It was really, we want to do this. This is the world we want to build and play in. And this is something that we feel that we can continue to be passionate about for years. So we're just going to go for it. And we did. And we got lucky because we've done other toy lines in the past that were very similar. Like if you look way back into in the mid 2000s, we did Seventh Kingdom. Very similar to what we're doing now with Mythic Legions, but it just didn't take. It just didn't. I mean, it didn't do poorly for us, but it just didn't take like Mythic Legions has for us.
Right. Now we were talking again. I was at a toy swap / con this morning, and we were talking a little bit about the history of toys, and you and I talked a little bit about it right before, how 97, 98 was kind of a magical time in the toy industry, in that it was a time where a lot of the artists were trying to get recognized. They wanted maybe their name on the packaging for having done the sculpt or the paint design or what have you. And a lot of the bigger toy companies were rebelling. They didn't want to give artists their credit. So you had a lot of independent companies. Speaking of Spawn, McFarlane was one of them. And I remember distinctly at that time period where it seemed like everything shifted from being like, these Star Wars figures with no articulation and just the arms and legs like this, to having these really interesting poses. And, maybe it doesn't necessarily, it swivels at the waist in a weird direction, or, there's very specific things like that. It seemed like the artwork started becoming more important. And now I'm loving, like, I collect Transformers, and they have a master series where it is so articulate that you have that I feel like you got the best of both worlds now. You have toys that you love to play with, but they also look fantastic as well.
Absolutely. And I would say, because we're all adults now, like, we grew up with those awesome toys that inspired us as kids, but we still have our grown-up sensibilities of what we feel a figure should do. Like, for example, Masters of the Universe, for me as a kid, I loved them. And Masters of the Universe is one of those that you can say broke that mold from the Kenner 5 points of articulation, right?
Right.
And honestly, you can look back at Kenner and go, they were just doing what they felt like would have been appropriate. I mean, you look at the time frame of the toys that were coming out then and why they did Star Wars the way they did. It made sense, and it was a step up. And then Masters of the Universe was another step, and you can even continue that into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that continued that and pushed it further. And then you can absolutely see that line of evolution in the toys and whatnot. But I think we all remember as kids grabbing a He-Man figure, even a Star Wars figure, and being like, but I want it to move differently. Like, I want to
bend his knees.
Please. Like, yeah. Could I please bend his knees? Or why does the He-Man figure have to have a rubber band that breaks in between his legs, kind of a thing?
Right.
Or the spring would get rusty in his waist. Or maybe I just wanted to twist the waist without it punching back. Like, I wanted to get that twist in his torso, kind of a thing. And action figures very much continue to evolve today. Like, even the figures that we make now, compared to like the Masters of the Universe line that we did, the Masters of the Universe classics that we were doing with Mattel, like, those are pretty highly articulated figures, but the collectors today are saying, no, they're not articulated enough because they don't have nipples, or they don't have double jointed knees, or they don't have like 3 different
fingers.
Yeah, finger articulation. And so it's exciting stuff, and it's just adding a new element in how we approach toys, how we design them. It's becoming a lot like when an artist goes from painting traditionally to painting digitally. It's like, just because you have access to all the colors of the light spectrum doesn't mean you should use them all in one painting. It's like you need to still hone back and decide, what is it that you're selling, what story are you telling, what would be appropriate for that painting, that kind of
right
thing. We're getting into
right
like art philosophy stuff now, but yeah.
Well, that's what's so interesting about this. I think, a lot of times when we go to the store, we get excited. And me personally, I'll tell you, because like I said, I'm a collector. I'm a box collector, right? So my packaging to me is just as important as the actual figure that's inside of there. I'm saying you do
problems, right?
Right. Do you think another thing I've been thinking a lot about is, I remember, using Star Wars as an example again. They did that mail-in box set for that Christmas because the production time took so long that they weren't going to be able to get the action figures out by Christmas. I think they came out in like March or April or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But back then, it used to be a year to 2 years production from the time somebody came up with an idea, drew it, and it went through all the, the channels, and, it went to manufacturing, and, everything's done. Now it just seems like, you see something on Rick and Morty, and next week somebody has made it on Etsy already.
It's crazy.
What do you think about that change in how toys and things are produced?
It's interesting. I still think they face a lot of those same challenges. You see it especially in Transformers. You see it especially in like a lot of back when the Marvel Cinematic Universe was bigger, just a few years ago, and you saw those first figures coming out. You could tell that Hasbro very much wanted those figures to be out as the movie dropped, because that makes the most sense. But the challenge is, how do you do that? Because in many ways, as you're making a movie, you're like, a lot of the toy designers only had near final concept art to work with. So it's like, okay, it's creating inconsistencies with this figure that you're buying at the store. As the movie comes out, it's like, well, wait a minute, I don't remember, Star-Lord's costume looking exactly like that, but it's close enough, kind of a thing.
Right.
You also deal with it with Lego. It's like Lego, how many movies has Lego spoiled? You know what I mean? Where
right.
They need to, as a company, produce a compelling playset that they want to put on the shelves as the movie drops, and they get story beats from the studios and stuff like that. And sometimes it's like, yeah, some of that's going to be spoilery material. And so I think it's changed in that regard, in terms of I think big companies, especially Hasbro's and Mattel's, and Legos, they know their pipeline system well enough. They know what they need. The problem is like with movies nowadays and the stories, they're produced just so quickly that it's hard to just snap your finger and turn it around right away. I think that will always be a little bit of a challenge until that day comes when a kid can just hit a few buttons on his computer and 3D print a figure. I mean, we're working. We're so close to that in so many ways, but we're still pretty far away from it still, realistically.
Right.
But I think the day will come, I think it'll happen, that they'll just be like, boop, hit a button, and boom, there's their action figure.
All right. Mez, we're going to get to your question in a minute, but I kind of want to stay here because I have some other thoughts on this. Of course, as soon as I said that, my train just jumped off the tracks. What do you think is more important for you as a creator? Do you think that articulation, that playability, or do you really like, really fine details so that you can see, every little tile on a dragon's body, or do you think you like to find the balance between the two? Yourself, personally, what you like?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think you could ask a variety of toy collectors that same question, you would get a variety of answers. Me personally, I like, one thing that I've always loved about the Horsemen's work and Eric's work is their ability to capture, I would say, the right amount of detail. Like a lot of people, when they get a figure in hand, they marvel at all the details that are in there.
Right.
And it's true that that detail is beautiful and it's intricate, but it's also smartly done. It's not like it enhances the design of the figure. Same thing with the articulation. You'll notice that like Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legion figures don't have double jointed elbows. They don't have double jointed knees. But we try to be smart about it because for us the bigger thing is the modularity that the figures have. And that's something that pulls back to our love of Glyos. I mean, honestly, Glyos, if Glyos didn't exist, I don't think Mythic Legions or Cosmic Legions would exist the way it is today. And that is something that we're seeing is bleeding out to other companies. Like even Mattel, you look at their Masters of the Universe Origins figures, there's modularity now involved. And it's cross lines. It's not just with Masters of the Universe, but it's with Masters of the WWE that has come and gone already. The new Turtles of Grayskull line that they have. You can pop and swap all of that stuff. And so you're starting to see more and more of that. And for us, that's been a big component for us because we feel like as adult collectors, a lot of us want to kind of create our own stuff also.
Right.
Like we love the figures that we're getting. We're not, slamming. It's like, oh, I hate this figure, but I can start to get a figure. And if I want to tinker with it, it doesn't take a whole lot to tinker with. And all of a sudden I can create my own stuff, which is really exciting and compelling. And that, so to back to your question on the design aesthetic, me personally, I want the right amount of detail and I want it to be designed well. I want the toy to feel good in your hands. Like that's another very important design element for me personally is like, I want to be picking it up and playing with it and posing it. And once I have it sitting on my desk in a pose for a day or two, I want to pick it up again and put it in another pose. And I want to have that to be able to do it and have it not fall apart on me or have it not break down.
Right. I remember appreciating when I actually picture have realistic facial hair. I remember the question that my brain kind of farted on, and this may be a bigger thing, but again, for people that don't know a lot about toy history and some of the behind the scene things, a lot of people may not know, and I believe, is it Hasbro that owns Star Wars right now, that does Star Wars, or who does Star Wars?
Yep.
So we're talking about how there's tons of layoffs in those companies because the movies don't do as well. So I think there's certain companies that are in an interesting position. They sign a contract, they get exclusive right to Star Wars. But if Star Wars doesn't do well, then that costs that toy company. You guys create your own characters, right? You're not tied. Do you guys do anything that's it's affiliated with someone else, or is it all your own creations?
We've freelanced out our own studio and our own services to work with other toy companies, to work on other properties. So, I mean, and that was even just a few years ago, that was actually a significant portion of our income that kept our company afloat was the ability to do freelance for other companies. And even still to this day, I mean, this as the studio, we're not opposed to like picking up a few jobs here and there. I think we're busy enough with our own stuff. We have to be careful about it, and we're protecting our own time for our own products, certainly.
Right.
But we have splintered off, artists and whatnot that we work with that will absolutely pick up other jobs and work with stuff. So we're just grateful, essentially, is what I'm saying, that we're in a position where we still like to tinker. We're all still creative artists and we like to work. Like, for example, we recently worked with Mezco on their Dr. Doom figure, which was a dream come true for my other boss, Cornboy, who loves Fantastic Four. Like that's his jam, kind of. So for him to get to do a Dr. Doom figure was just phenomenal. Now, Cornboy didn't stop, but he very much art directed. And he worked with artists that ended up building that figure for Mezco. And so, we still have our hand in other pots from time to time.
Right.
And I would just say that we're very thankful that we don't have to rely on it. You know what I mean? We don't have to worry about what the state is with Marvel movies or Star Wars movies or that kind of a thing anymore.
Right. So you did have a question. I'm going to go back to it. Mezid asked, "Do you have a particular piece of artwork that you're most proud of, or that makes you the happiest that you did?"
In many ways, it's a project, I would say. It was back in 2011, 2012, but then it was released in 2013, was the Castle Grayskull for Masters of the Universe Classics. So that toy line had been going on for 5 years, thereabouts. The idea in the toy industry at that time, and especially with Mattel or any other really, no other toy companies were doing big giant play sets. They're just costly. They're kind of a one-off thing. It's not like you can repaint a play set 50 times and kick it out like you can with other action figures.
Right.
And I know Eric Treadaway and myself, we are hardcore geeks when it comes to Masters of the Universe, especially Castle Grayskull. Like, it's such an iconic centerpiece to that collection in that world for us that we were just like...
Right.
And I remember he and I having conversations about it a few years before it was even talked about. We were just dreaming together and geeking out together. Like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could do Castle Grayskull for the classics? Because it wasn't just a straight 1-to-1 same rerun of the old figures. We were updating them with better sculpt, better paint, better articulation, and so in our mind, thematically, we were like, well, Castle Grayskull would have to be bigger. It would have to be sculpted better. It would have to be, anything that was a sticker on the playset, we would want it to be real in the thing.
Right.
So finally, yeah, it was an interesting time because the Icon Heroes company had worked with Mattel and got the okay to do an environmental statue of Castle Grayskull. And Mattel told them specifically, it's like, you need to work with Four Horsemen Studios, because if we at Mattel eventually do a playset, it would have to be consistent with that. So just work with those designers, which
nice.
That was me and Eric at the time.
Right.
So I remember getting the phone call from Eric, and he's like, "Dude, we have the green light to do Castle Grayskull." Like,
wow.
It's real. And we both were just like in awe. Like, we were so happy and we were geeking out so hard about it. And we're like, well, we have to include the little thing on the top of the dome. We have to include the letter. That was the concept art that Mark Taylor had done. That was just like, we have to honor that as much as we can. Excuse me. So that project was, I would say for me, stands out as, all I did for it, I did a few pieces of artwork in that time frame. One was for, I got to work with Eric and design with him the entire. So if you think of Castle Grayskull, you only had the front and the one side.
Right.
That's all it was as an old toy. And so we got to kind of figure out, well, what does the rest of that castle look like? And so that's our design. And I got to do a painting for that box, which was kind of an iconic, it was a alternate take on Rudy Obrero's original Castle Grayskull artwork that he done back in the 80s. But like, let's show off that other side. And so that painting that I had done for that packaging is near and dear to my heart. But then to get to do the actual design sheets, like before Four Horsemen Studios started even sculpting the castle, we needed to produce some design sheets essentially to sell the idea, because Mattel had used my drawings to sell the idea of let's make this castle. So I'm just doing like quick, it's not like finished art at all. It's very much sketch work from me, but it was still the magic that we were feeling at that time was awesome. That will always be something that I'll look back on and just pinch myself that even happened.
That's so cool. It's kind of like the people that have grown up with Star Wars, then now going on to work onto the sets and work with the characters that they grew up with. It's got to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah,
it's amazing how quickly 40 minutes flies, but we're coming up near the end here. I know Andrew would kill me if I didn't have you talk about, you have something coming up in Sacramento here soon. Can you tell us about that?
You bet. So last year at around the same time, we did what was called a mythic meetup, basically. And we brought a bunch of mythic legions at the time, a bunch of figures, and Andrew set us up in a room there at Toy Fusion, just next to Toy Fusion. Actually, it was a part of the greater toy swap meet that they kind of do on those weekends.
Right.
Excuse me. And so we had a presence there. I was there selling prints. Walter Hagen was there. He's kind of our Facebook social guy. He was there with us. And Iz Ramirez was there. If you know Iz, you'll have to get Iz on the show at some point and geek out. Right. But he's a friend of the studio, a friend of Four Horsemen Studios. He and I have been longtime friends. Sacramento is near and dear to me because my in-laws actually live in Shingle Springs, California, which is nice. Just up in the El Dorado Hills near Sacramento. And so I get to go visit family, but then go to this toy swap meet and sell a bunch of Mythic Legions figures. So we're going to do a similar thing. We're going to do another Mythic meetup, and that's going to be on that weekend of May the 4th and 5th.
Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo and May the 4th.
Yeah, so to be clear, it is at May 4th and 5th because I know obviously May 4th is a big day for us as a lightsaber company. So I was talking about Andrew if we would have an opportunity to be there or not. So we're going to try to make it in the morning for your event and then in the afternoon head out to the park for people beating each other up with glow sticks.
Oh, I would love to do that because I myself have a bunch of lightsaber. Well, there's some hanging on the wall back there. There's
they do. And May 4th, they advertise it as the world's largest lightsaber battle. You get like 400 nerds in the park beating each other up with glow sticks.
That's my
right. Let's see. My Star Wars figures may not have had the movement of G.I. Joe, but they were nearly indestructible. G.I. Joe started losing limbs after a few months.
This is true.
So I guess this is the balance you always have to figure out in your head as far as what are people actually going to be doing with these.
Exactly. And we build our figures. Again, if it moves on the figure, this is my philosophy. If you can move a joint, if you put some heat to it, I would say definitely put some heat to it. But they pop apart on purpose. Like we're not gluing things together on the figures. They're designed in a way to be modular, to be taken apart, to have, and if you're taking a figure of a similar size, you can literally what we call pop and swap stuff.
Right.
So, and because we build that with that in mind, also most of our figure construction is PVC, and without boring viewers of getting into the
logistics.
It's a mix of a variety of plastics, but I would say most of the main body parts are made with a PVC, which is a more forgiving and more pliable plastic.
Right.
And if you have an old Kenner figure, the head, the arms, and the legs were PVC, whereas the body and the torso was an ABS. It was a harder, more rigid plastic. And that softer plastic tends to hold up better with some of that abuse.
Right. Well, Nate, I've had an absolutely fantastic time talking to you. Is there anything you want to leave people with? For everybody who is watching right now, if you want to find more of Nate's work, if you want to find more from the Four Horsemen Studios, all of that's going to be in our description box.
Mr.
Twisted Phone.
Can I address this question right here?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's been a game changer for both Mythic and Cosmic and Figure Obscura.
Right.
We actually are putting more and more clothing on our figures, and it's turning out to be amazing. We work with an artist named C. Jesm. Fans may know who he is, maybe not, but he provides the prototypes for all of the soft goods that we do. We call them soft goods, but it's like capes, and it's been amazing to watch how that has evolved in the toy industry also. So that may have been a joke about Barbie and stuff, but I didn't take it as a joke. It's actually something that is enhancing our figures even further. And it's
all right. All right. That's absolutely amazing.
I'm sorry, but
So for anybody that would like to find out more about Nate or Four Horsemen, check our description. There's going to be plenty of information there. Nate, I cannot thank you enough, especially since you didn't have a lot of time to prepare for all of this, but I appreciate you talking to us.
Happy to talk, and I'm happy to come back and talk anytime you want. So it's fun stuff. I had like a stack of packaging over here I could have shown and tell, but yeah, go to the websites. Check out you can check out my spot. You can go to Four Horsemen as well. You can look us up there and Four Horsemen Toy Design and see everything that we're doing there too.
Excellent. All right, Nate, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and we will see you on probably May 4th. I'm hoping.
I absolutely looking forward to it.
All right, Mezzo, roll that.
I didn't get to ask him which one of us was closest to his name pronunciation.
Well, hopefully you'll get to see him on May 4th or May 5th. He will be here in Sacramento.
I plan to be. And thank you, Nate. He just said thanks so much. So it was so much fun. Thank you. So,
thank you, Nate. Thank you.
Have you on. So thank you. Very, very much enjoyed that. I love anything to do with art. I don't get to draw as much as I used to. I did draw like for a book that was being published a while back. I have an old Wacom Intuos graphics tablet that I haven't used in a while just because most of my stuff is video editing.
Right.
And such. So anyway, all right. Moving on. Normally this is where we used to have Kevin Hogan's video play.
Oh.
I'm sad that we don't have it tonight. We just haven't had it for a little while. I do miss when I would edit his stuff. It was like a very calming, chill voice too.
It's always fun to see all the cosplayers.
Baertsch, if I get it correctly. Yes. Wait. I'm gonna bring him on and ask him. Is that correct?
I'm back. Baertsch. You can't get rid of me.
No. Is it Baertsch or Baertsch?
It's Baertsch. It's like Baertsch. It's easier than it looks. Now, however, Mason, if we were in Germany, you would have been more correct. I think it is pronounced more like
Baertsch, like Baertsch. So yeah. I told Nate earlier that I sing in opera and mezzo soprano. That's where mezzo comes from. Years ago, I had a competition where I had to sing in several languages, and I got told my German was better than my English. I don't speak German. I sing in it, but I don't speak it. All right, thank you, Nate.
Technically, you're probably correct, but in America, we just say it. We just say it, Baertsch.
That's right. All right, thank you. All right. Normally, yes, we do a different segment here right now, and I usually do Star Wars Mad Libs, but I will be honest with our audience that Mezzo's in a lot of pain, and so I'm gonna do the TikToks.
Let's just get to those TikToks. We should come up. We're gonna come up with a different segment for right here. Something that we can do. I had that idea about the lip syncing and then having the audience guess what song we were singing.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. Nate, I can't wait to see you in May. Looking forward to meeting you in person.
Make sure to check out kybercave.com and also kcpmerch.com. We have a Patreon page and a Discord. We're all over the place.
Night Vision says he's sending force healing. Yes, I injured my back last night, aside from the foot issue that I have. Mezzo's like a Pringle chip. I will break.
Right, guys, I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah, no, that's why it's a joke. I'm a Pringles chip because I break easily. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. You have a wonderful week. Check out our past shows on the channel. You won't regret it.
That's right. We have an exciting show for you every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Make sure to be here live, ask all the fun questions, and don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. The closer we get to 1,800, the sooner we are to another Saber giveaway.
Yep, exactly. All right, guys, have a good week. We'll catch you later.
Peace.
I clicked the wrong one, okay? Sorry.